As you learn about the narcissistic pattern, it's also wise to reflect on the much healthier alternatives. Now, below you're going to find a link to my new extensive course called Ready, Set, Connect. It addresses both the mindset and the skills involved in gratifying relationships, and I hope you'll find it to be quite therapeutic. A question I'm commonly asked is, if I'm under the influence for an extended period of time of a narcissist, does that mean that eventually I can become narcissistic too? Now, if you're asking that question, the answer is probably no. Narcissists are not self-aware enough to even bother to ask, do I have problems? And if so, what does that tell me about me? They're blame shifters. And so if there is a problem, they're not going to introspect. They're just going to look for somebody that they can pin it on. So probably not. But I understand the impetus to such a question. When you're in the presence of a narcissistic individual, they have so much instability that they bring to the equation that it can bring out the worst in you, and it can alter your way of doing life to the extent that you don't like the direction that you're going. And so, yes, we need to question what's going on here without you feeling like you're just going to become an awful person because, again, you're under their influence and they're setting the pace. Narcissists like to take the lead in relationships, which is a nice way of saying they're very controlling, they're entitled, they want to be superior, and so they want to take the lead, all right? And in doing so, they'll lead you straight into the ditch. And then they turn around and blame you for being in the ditch. And so that being the case, I think it's going to be necessary for us to look at some of the ways that they can bring their instability toward you, and in doing so, bring out the worst in you. And let's see if by virtue of you having that awareness, we can come up with a way of life that is not going to allow them to have that kind of leadership over you at all. So eight different ways that they can bring out the worst in you and alter your way of life. Now, the first thing we're going to say is narcissists are hypersensitive. They get their feelings hurt too easily and they're offended way too quickly. And as a result, it can create a sense of vigilance on the inside of you. And that's not a way that you want to do things. Now, obviously, in a healthy personality, you want to be conscientious. You want to be aware of how you're coming across. But in their hypersensitivity and then your hypervigilance in reverse, you can find yourself asking, is that person in a good mood today? If I say this, am I going to get in trouble? If they know that I have this opinion, are they just going to explode? Or is today going to be as bad as it was yesterday? And so because of their hypersensitivity, you wind up being way too cautious and guarded. And in doing so, you question yourself quite easily. Now, a second pattern that we commonly see is narcissists are consistently off base in the way that they interpret you, and then that can cause you to question your normalcy. For example, the way you manage something, and again, we're talking about in a broad array of relationships, inside your home, your living partner, your family members, your social work. They'll watch how you do certain things and then call you into question, and they interpret you and put the motives on the inside of you that are not there. But over time, when you hear this over and over and over, it's like, well, am I being difficult here? Am I the one that's off base? But let's keep in mind, they interpret you based on their need to prop themselves up. And so you want to be aware of what's going on with that. Now, a third pattern that we very commonly see, and that is narcissists absolutely refuse to take responsibility for their own wrongs or mistakes or miscalculations. So they'll project their errant ways onto you. And it consistently leaves you wondering, well, am I the problem here? So let's suppose that you do have a breakdown or something doesn't go well or plans didn't unfold. And rather than them saying, I blew it, or I'd let you think this way and it turned out differently. Let's go back and go back to the drawing board and start all over again. No, they just go straight into the blame shifting. They project onto you their irresponsibilities. They'll just say, you're an irresponsible person. And before you know it, it's all this gaslighting. You're wondering, well, am I just difficult to get along with? Is that the problem here? A fourth pattern that we very consistently see is narcissists consistently make themselves to be the victim. And so they're looking for someone to wear the label of offender. Oh, there you are. Things don't always go well with a narcissist. Plans don't unfold, or they have emotional reactions that they know they probably shouldn't have done. But instead of saying, again, like number 3, I've got to take responsibility, it's like, bad things can happen to me only because bad people are in front of me, and there you are, you're a bad person. And so they will see you as being a negative individual, a bad influence on them, when in fact, again, that's part of their projection. It's part of their defense mechanism. A fifth common pattern that we have is that without empathy, narcissists have no particular appreciation for the positive characteristics that you bring to the equation. They don't look at your positive qualities, or they don't care about your way of interpreting things, and it leaves you feeling demoralized. They have no curiosity. Who are you, and what do you bring, and what kind of good characteristics you have? They don't want to know things from your vantage point, which is what empathy is all about. And so it makes you wonder, well, if I do have good things, does anybody notice? This person in front of me certainly doesn't notice, and you can feel demoralized because of that. A sixth very common pattern that we see, and that is narcissists are terrible at conflict resolution skills. But guess what? When there is a conflict, it's your fault. And because they have rotten conflict resolution skills, it tends to bring out poor ways of managing conflict from you. In other words, they have anger and you have anger. They have agitation, you get agitation. And as a result, you find yourself being off base with respect to your anger and your conflict management. And they can then come back and play the gotcha game. See, you're so difficult to get along with. A seventh pattern that's very common, and that is because narcissists don't acknowledge their own mistakes and inadequacies, then they can't possibly accept you. And they have no ability to accept your humanity. Anytime that you do have a valid mistake, or you discuss a failure or a hurt or something that went wrong, they're going to go straight into the shame game. They're going to criticize you, and it leaves you feeling badly. But keep in mind, the reason they do that is because they have such a rotten memory, they forget that they too have their humanity. And as a result, they'll shame you and overlook their shamefulness. And it leaves you thinking, well, maybe I am the guilty party here. Maybe I am a defective kind of individual. They absolutely love it when they see any kind of negative on the inside of you. It allows them to just scoop right in and put you in your negative place. An eighth pattern that we commonly see, and that is they have such a need to be admired that they cannot appreciate the admirable qualities within you. There can be times when you've done something quite well, or something has made you feel good, and rather than them saying, way to go, or I know that that's something you were looking forward to, it's like, well, if I give you positive regard, then that means that there's less positive regard in the room for me. They see that as being a zero-sum game, and so I can't compliment you because that just takes away from what I would have. And it's a twisted way of thinking, but that's part of their instability. They can't appreciate good things happening with you. And so you see that all of this is just one big, huge experiment in projection and gaslighting. All of this shows that they're coming toward you with their own instability, but instead of saying that, what they do is they put all this garbage onto you. And so your challenge is going to make sure that before you react in a harsh or negative or self-deprecating kind of way, that you realize you're dealing with a very immature person. You're dealing with somebody who's emotionally disturbed and they're profoundly biased against you. And it's so essential for you to know your audience and know what you're dealing with. So as you move forward, knowing that they bring their instability and they have the desire to alter your way of life and bring you over to their way, and then when you actually play into the instability, like I say, it's your fault. Let's keep in mind certain truths and insights. And that is, you do, in fact, want to be a positive presence in the life of the person in front of you, but you can't help somebody who refuses to be helped. And the narcissist can't share their humanity with you. You want to be someone who likes to harmonize, but narcissists don't harmonize. They expect you to conform. By the way, many of you know that my wife is a musician. She was trained as an opera singer, but she wound up being a choir teacher in the school system for years and years. And she could have a tone-deaf person who just couldn't match pitch. Well, let's suppose you have the tone-deaf person that says, hey, why don't I direct the choir? And part of the definition of being tone-deaf is you don't even know you're tone-deaf. It's that kind of thing. You want to be somebody that harmonizes. You have this tone-deaf person that says, well, let's just do it my way. And it's like, wow. But that's how they operate. That's how unaware they are. You want to be guided by positive ideals, but reality says that narcissists have such an idealized version of themselves that they can't appreciate the things that you bring. So it's astonishing how unaware and uninsightful these narcissists can be. And it virtually guarantees their demise. That's their instability. But I'm hoping at some point that you can conclude, I can see how that narcissist lack of stability can bring me down, but I have way too much self-regard to let that person define me. Narcissists are stuck in their own instability, but I'm in a growth mode. I'll not join them down in that ditch. Now, I hope that this gives you some good food for thought. We lost Gus about halfway into it. It's just kind of like, you know what? This just bothers me. Actually, he went to sleep down somewhere else here. If you haven't already subscribed, I would encourage you to do so. And Gus and I will bring more videos in your direction. This is my way of saying, I'm a therapist and I've heard so many stories, and it allows me to have insights into what you're dealing with. And so by subscribing, we'll bring more videos in your direction. Hit that like button too. If you have a need for therapy, and I know many times as you're trying to come to terms with this, it would be helpful for you to have someone objective who could walk you through this. I'm so pleased to be sponsored by the people at BetterHelp.com. They're an online therapy service. There's a link below, and you can select from a team of licensed professional therapists. I would strongly encourage that if that is your need. In addition, I have my therapeutic courses, and these are very extensive. And we have 3 of them, and each course has multiple videos, teaching documents, guided questions. We have Ready, Set, Connect about good connection skills. We have This Is Me about you establishing your good boundaries. We have Free to Be about finding yourself despite those controllers. We have our podcast, and it's going quite well. We have my books, and we have our website, lots of articles there, plenty of resources for you to draw upon. Narcissists are unstable, and they want nothing more than for you to join them so that they can have somebody to kick while they're down there in their instability, and it alters your way of life. Let's not let that happen. I hope that you can have such a focus on what your healthiness is going to be that you have a determination that says, I'm standing in dignity, respect, and civility, because that's my way of saying I'm determined to be a person of peace.